for Giving Matters with your host, Joe Allen.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Giving Matters. I'm Joe Allen, and thank you for being here today. Thank you, Steve, across the desk, and thanks to Carrie Potter for putting this show together, as she has for quite some time. We have some terrific guests today, two of Rockland's best. I'm sure you know them in a lot of different ways. We have representing the Rockland Community Foundation, Bill Sherwood, who's the president, and Susan Lynn, who's in charge of development, and they'll join me in a couple of minutes. I wanted to talk a little bit today about the concept of giving. Why do people give? Why are people involved in philanthropy? Why do people want to pass something down? There are a lot of different reasons for that. In Rockland, you probably know, if you're listening to this show, you probably know that most of the giving in Rockland County, as it is around the country, is done by individuals. This whole concept of corporations being the leader, being the engine of this train, is really not true. Most of the giving is done by individuals, and that means we need to take a look at what motivates people to give. Mostly people give to the organizations who represent feelings that they are aligned with, whatever the reason is. It may have been something in their family. They may have had a sense of passion or compassion for some idea or ideal. For me, for example, I cannot tolerate the concept of a young child being humiliated by not having enough to eat, or not having a level playing field of equipment or tools to start a school year, or even facing a holiday without the same kind of joy and gifts and good cheer that other kids have. So whatever anybody's reason is, they jump in and decide that they want to participate with that organization. In Rockland, there are hundreds, 700, 800, depending on how you categorize nonprofits. We are one of the largest nonprofit per capita counties anywhere in the country, which means our opportunities to give are almost without end in Rockland. So we need to determine what it is that touches us. There are those on the pragmatic side who would say, well, we need to support those organizations that help people get from one day to the next, and I happen to agree with that line of thinking. The taking care of hunger, or taking someone who needs shelter and taking that person care of them, or someone who's in a violent situation and making them free of violence. Those are the things that are immediate. It gets people from one day to the next. And those are the things that the county needs to provide for its citizens. If organizations aren't providing it, then the county needs to provide it. But then there are other categories of nonprofits that maybe get you from tomorrow to a few weeks from now. Schools and short-term housing and other types of activities that will help you in the short term. And then we can look at some of the longer-term betterment and personal enriching kind of organizations that make our community better and our lives better. But with 700 of them, how in the world are we going to determine how to give and what to do and how to organize our thinking? Well, it's a tough task, and we're all fortunate that in our county we have the Rockland Community Foundation, which helps to organize people's thinking on how they ought to look at philanthropy and caring and giving, and what to do about that. So I want to bring Bill and Susan in, and let me tell you, it's a pleasure to have you both. You are both well known, and you are some of the best our county has, and I thank you for your work on behalf of the Rockland Community Foundation. I know that the company I work for, Active International, has a fund, and we're sitting in the state Provident Bank Park, beautiful Provident Bank Park, and the team that's here has a fund with the foundation. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about the foundation.
Well, thanks, Joe, and thank you for the kind words. Absolutely, I'll be happy to tell you about the foundation and a little bit about what we try and do. We consider ourselves a link between those who want to give and those people and organizations that are in need in the community. The Community Foundation is constantly working to try and improve the quality of life of the county. And what we are trying to do is channel the giving in Rockland County to Rockland County so that it is kept locally and that the benefits of people who want to give to charities are immediately apparent to the community of Rockland. We do this in a great number of ways. We have a whole lot of funds, and Susan is here, who's our development director, and she could tell you a little bit about the various funds that we have.
Susan, how about that?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for having us. You made a very good point earlier when you talked about the fact that there are people and businesses in Rockland who do want to give, but they maybe don't know how to go about doing that in a way that's meaningful to them. And one of the things that the Rockland Community Foundation can do is help them establish a fund that will address the particular need that is important to them or that they're passionate about. And that does differentiate us from some of the ways the other nonprofits work, in that we are really the only donor fund driven nonprofit in the county, and we help to consolidate their giving to other nonprofits in the county.
Let me get a little bit more elementary than that. What does that mean, establish a fund?
Well, it's fairly easy. People who occasionally want to give to charity, for instance, some memorial fund, a special event, even Hurricane Sandy when we had that, a number of people wanted to help out and do something. I don't know where to give. There were no existing charities that were qualified charities, 501c3 organizations. The Community Foundation is a 501c3, and what we did was set up a crisis relief fund that would respond to Sandy and any future, God forbid, crisis that should come to Rockland. And people could give there, and then we can direct it to those who are in need because of the damage from the storm. We can do the same thing with any type of fund that a donor wants to set up. If you wanted to set up a charity or a scholarship fund, rather than going through all the paperwork, year and a half wait to get a 501c3 status if you can qualify with their fairly arcane rules. We already have that. You can set up a fund with us. We can establish it. You can direct where the proceeds go as long as they qualify under the charitable rules. And that's what our goal is to provide that avenue, a very easy way for donors to make charitable and tax-saving gifts that address specific issues within the community.
You hit it right on the head. For me, I set up a fund named after my parents and to address those activities that were important to them. And I didn't know where to go with that. Wasn't sure how to do that. So I did set up a fund through the foundation. And now, if there's an event or an activity that I know my folks and now my family would relate to, I can make the donation to that, and people can donate to my fund, and it would be tax deductible, correct?
Exactly, and that is the added benefit. If someone does establish a fund with us for a cause that they're passionate about, people in the community can go onto our website, which is www.rocklandgives.org, and you can look at the donate tab, and the list of our funds, which number about 31 right now, will drop down, and people can automatically make a donation right there online through either PayPal or their credit card, or they can mail in a check to any number of funds that address causes that are important to them. So you don't necessarily need to be someone who's establishing a fund. You can give to an established fund already. And just to touch on what Judge Sherwood talked about, last year I was approached by an individual, and very nice man. His parents were both Holocaust survivors, and he wanted to do something to honor them, and he wanted to do it in the county, and he wasn't sure quite how to go about doing that. And in conversations with him, we were able to actually get a scholarship fund established for 2 students in the county who were interested in learning more about the Holocaust and trying to work towards implementing policies that would prevent this from happening in the future in other countries. So he was able to honor his parents and do some good work in the community at the same time. And that's really what we're there for. We're there to help people realize those memorial activities that they're engaging in and make them happen in meaningful ways.
You know, I'm one of those people who believe that you can walk out of here and turn to the left and turn to your right and see need at almost any time. And whether the need is something very severe like hunger, or whether the need is something you may decide less severe, some education directions or things you'd like to have your children learn, the opportunity to do that through the Rockland Community Foundation gives you all the opportunity in the world. And that's one of the great things about this. You've grown from a very few funds a number of years ago when I first learned about it through my friend John Eccleston, until now, where how many funds are there?
We've got 31 funds. And the interesting thing is community foundations are not anything new. There are 700 community foundations in the United States, and I believe this year is the 100th anniversary of the 100th anniversary of the first community foundation. And these are instruments designed to keep giving locally based.
By the way, if you want to join the conversation, you can call us at 362-0013, and if you're listening via your computer and you're out of the area, don't forget it's a 845 area code as well. So we're here with Judge William Sherwood, who is the president of the Rockland Community Foundation, and Susan Lynn, who is in charge of development for the organization. What are the kinds of funds that are in there now?
We have a variety of funds. Scholarship funds, of course, are always very popular. People like to set up scholarship funds, and we can administer those to the degree that the sponsor wants them administered. Sometimes we're simply investing funds and the sponsor is doing everything. We also have a scholarship committee that will review applications and narrow it to the criteria that the donor has given us, and then give the donor maybe the top 5 or top 10 applications, and let the donor decide where they want their money to go. So that is a very typical kind of fund. Memorial funds are another type of fund that we are constantly involved with, and on which we can help you out. And any other, the Crisis Relief Fund, for instance, is aimed at emergency situations, crises in Rockland that we want to address.
We have a caller on the line. Let's start bringing the audience in on the conversation. Caller, how are you?
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Bill, and good morning, Susan. How are you doing today?
Good,
Very well,
thank you. Good morning.
I just wanted to ask what the Rockland Community Foundation does as far as their events and recruiting volunteers.
Well, we have a purely volunteer organization. Only one part-time paid employee helping us with development. But beyond that, we raise our funds through a annual gala, and we also are planning some other smaller events. The gala, which will be in October this year, October 23rd, Susan, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I got the right date. October 23rd, we will have a great event at the Water Club in Havistra, so you want to mark your calendars and save that date. And that is our big event of the year. We are planning several other events. We just finished an event down in Piermont at the Piermont Art Gallery. The artists in the Piermont Art Gallery were kind enough to put on their display and agree to give to the Community Foundation a portion of the proceeds of any sales that day, and we did very nicely, and certainly got some exposure out there with that. So we are planning a spring event, and we're firming up the date sometime in May, I believe, right?
That's correct. It's a work in progress, but we'll be announcing hopefully within the next 2 weeks.
You know,
And as far as volunteers as well.
Volunteers, we have a board and an advisory board. Our board is pretty full, and it's a very prestigious board, and we're very happy with the people who are on it. We have an advisory board on top of that who are a little less involved. They don't have to go to our monthly meetings. That's the difference. So they all help out. They help to run the events, and they also chair the committees, including the grants committees and the scholarship committees. So those are all done on a volunteer basis. We are not a membership corporation. We're purely a board of directors driven corporation. We are, of course, always looking for interns to help out with our office, because we do not have a full-time office staff. And so our mailings, emails, we rely heavily on the electronic media to get the word out to the community. Helping out with that, as well as the mailings and publicizing the events. We need volunteers for that, or interns, more likely, who come in on a regular basis.
Right.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. For someone sitting at home who may be listening to this and has felt the need to want to jump in and get into philanthropy and help the community in some way, why would it be better to go through the Rockland Community Foundation, even setting up a fund, rather than doing it themselves and writing a check out of their checkbook at the end of the year?
Well, actually, there are a number of reasons, Joe. The first is when people hear the word philanthropy, some of them say, okay, that's not me, I don't have that level of income. And one of the great things about a community foundation is we can help you establish a fund with as little as a couple of $1,000s for a scholarship or $5,000 to start for a donor fund. So it enables people who don't have a tremendous amount of money to consolidate their giving to causes that are important to them, and we do all of the legwork. We do the filings, we become your charitable instrument, and it does enable them to feel that they are making a tangible difference to causes that are important to them without having to do the administrative work, get that 501c3, do the annual filings. It is the same thing for someone or a business who has a considerable amount of income that they are looking to invest. To have a dedicated staff to help them administer their charitable giving, unless you've got many millions of dollars, is really not the best use of your monies, because instead of putting your monies into charitable giving, you're paying salaries. And one of the beauties of a community foundation is that we take that responsibility on, and we do not charge the funds to the extent that you would expect that they would be. We take a 1% fee to do the administrative work for the fund, and that is it. The rest of the monies that you donate into your fund go to the causes that your fund is intended to.
So you have all the benefits of having a powerful, community-oriented position in the community without having to have all the administrative stuff that goes along with that,
Exactly.
including setting up the 501c3.
Exactly, and currently we have been speaking with people who have been trying to get their own 501c3s, and they're running about 2 years now in terms of wait time for applications, which is extremely challenging to people who want to give now.
And what people also don't realize is that 501c3 causes you to behave very, very differently than you might under if you had another kind of business or another kind of activity, and the forms that you fill out, such as the 990, are just onerous to deal with.
And we can relieve a lot of that administrative pressure, and honestly, that's one of the most important things we do. People who want to give to a charity or want to raise money for a charity want to concentrate on that. If you have your own charitable organization that you want to support, you don't want to be bogged down filling out forms and handling the 501c3 paperwork that's involved. Annual filings, tax returns, there are no taxes, but you still must file a return. We can do that. And you can concentrate on your own charitable giving and raising funds through other sources for your charity.
Yeah, it's a very big point to take the administrative stuff out of your hands. I know for a lot of companies, my company, Active International, for example, we don't want any of that stuff. We thought long and hard about whether or not to to become a 501c3, and we opted not to. So we were involved with a number of organizations, and we are involved in a number of organizations, but purely as donors. And then we started a fund through the Rockland Community Foundation that allowed us to do considerably more and gave us more options to handle the way we looked at ourselves as a philanthropic company without having to go through any of the dire paperwork that I've seen others have to go through.
And it's a way to, I don't want to use the term quite, but to legitimize your charity. If you are raising money for a specific purpose, we all know we're solicited constantly by charities, so-called charities, that we are very suspicious of. We know that they expend most of their money on the sponsors and not on the charity that they're espousing. If you're going to give through the Rockland Community Fund and set up your foundation under our umbrella, we're going to be sure that the money goes to the charities that you designate. You can designate who the final recipients are, as long as they're within the realm of the 501c3 giving umbrella. Certainly, other 501c3s, all of the major charities in Rockland County are supported by us to one degree or another, and we're happy to promote their events. As well as our own events that we use to fund our organization. And you can be sure, if you're giving to a charity that is sponsored by the Community Foundation, that it is a legitimate charity and that there's not going to be a whole lot of overhead expense involved.
Great. If you want to join the conversation with William Sherwood and Susan Lynn and myself, the number is 362-0013, and if you're out of the area listening on your computer, add the 845 area code. Most of the funds that you have now, would you classify them as immediate need, as personal desire, as goal-oriented?
No, they're actually quite diverse. We are really open to taking funds for any type of charitable cause. We've got 7 scholarships, and they range from those benefiting students in athletics to those looking to affect social change. And then the remainder of our funds cross many lines. We've got an animal-oriented fund, we've got an arts fund, music fund, we've got health and human services funds, and then we have funds that are actually established by some of our local political groups. For example, we have the Vanderbilt Budke Fund, which is going to help preserve a home in the county that is extremely valuable in terms of its historical offerings to us. So it really crosses all desires in terms of interest.
I'm a big believer in taking the bull by the horns, and if you believe in something, go out and push it. Now that comes into play after we take care of what I call the immediate needs type of nonprofits. But what I love about the Rockland Community Foundation is that you can be directed in any way you want, as long as it fits within the guidelines, and be able to set up a real functioning entity to go about and supporting that concept.
Exactly, and that is the challenge. People do want to give, they have passion, they want to give in a way that's meaningful to them, and we help to make that a reality.
Mm-hmm. Do you handle a lot of, or some immediate needs kind of organizations?
Certainly we do, and if you any of our listeners want to go to rocklandgives.org, they can take a look at the various funds that we have. I think 31 now, and I hope the list is up to date, but the fact is that the number of funds are growing. A year ago, I think we had 23. We are now up to 31. And so almost every week we add a new fund. And you can go to that site, click on the button, and look at the funds that we have. If any of them suit your giving needs, you can give right there just by clicking the button and giving a credit card number to the organization, to the PayPal organization that we use. But if you want to take a look at that, you'll look at all of the various funds that we do. You can help a student to attend, for instance, nursing school. You could provide meals for single-parent families. You could maybe build a rose garden someplace in a town facility. Honor the memory of your parents or grandparents if you think that's appropriate. We even had one that created some scenery for a community play, and obviously shelter for animals, very big for us, or veterans services if we can help them out, and historical purposes. The Vanderbilt Budke House is one of those organizations. And we have a fund that will be for general charitable purposes that we named for Jeffrey Keon, who was one of our great philanthropists in the county who passed away last year.
Absolutely.
Was on our board.
Yeah, one of the great Rocklanders. If somebody wants to have a chat, they may be on the fence, not sure what to do. Can they reach out to you?
Yes, we have a phone number, obviously, at 845-947-2868. That'll put you in touch with Susan, and you can leave a message if she is not there. She will get back to you, I assure you, or, as I say, through the website, rocklandgives.org. You can go there and find out a lot about the Community Foundation and a lot about what we do here in the county. As Susan pointed out, the Community Foundations have been around for 100 years, starting, I think, in Cleveland. Rockland's is fairly new, and we've only been here about 10 years in Rockland, but it is a rapidly growing organization that we think is a huge benefit to the community right here in Rockland.
Well, it makes eminent sense with the majority of giving taking place in the county coming from individuals who may not know what to do. I know at Active in the late 90s we started our program called Active Cares, in part because we were being approached by hundreds and hundreds of organizations to jump in and support them. And we felt, rather than just responding in an unorganized way to whoever came our way, let's put a plan together and program together. So we did, and we called it Active Cares. And over the course of time, we began an Active Cares fund through the Rockland Community Foundation. But I can tell you, by having your fund named and brought to life, it does give such great legitimacy to the work that you're doing. You can feel proud, you could feel happy and honored that whatever your intent and goal was, there's a live, living entity that's doing that, and it does make a great big difference. So if there are people out there that are leaning towards a philanthropic approach in their lives, and believe me, I advocate that to no end, by organizing your thoughts and being involved with the Rockland Community Foundation will help you immeasurably. People
frequently want to give. Rockland is notorious as being a very, very charitable county. And what we found, and one of the reasons for the establishment of the Rockland Community Foundation, was that most of those charitable giving left the county. And most of it, I'm sure, went to very worthwhile purposes. But it's different to give to a national charity and you know, you've done your share and you feel like you gave, but that money kind of disappears and is goes to good purposes, but nothing you specifically recognize. The Community Foundation is aimed at keeping those dollars here in Rockland so that you see the immediate benefit directly from the charity. Now, that doesn't mean you can't give to far-flung charities. We do have charities overseas that are supported by some of our endowed funds. But by and large, we try and direct the money back to the community. And our proprietary funds, the funds that we administer, do stay in the community.
I'm with you 100% on that. Part of our big effort at Active for the work that we do and the work that I do too is keeping it in the county. There is no end of need in Rockland, and to be able to serve that need is a mission that more of us need to be involved in. What do you think are the biggest issues facing Rocklanders? You see it from many different vantage points. Give me your take on where the trouble is here.
Well, I don't know that the Rockland has trouble as such, but of course we're suffering the same economic declines as the rest of the country. We have, for such a rich county, we have an enormous number of people in need, and there are a lot of local charities that are addressing that need, and we want to support those charities. We want to keep them going. All of those funds are very, very worthwhile funds. And all of the food pantries, which we do a lot with the help and support of Insera supermarkets. We have given out grants to food pantries throughout the county, I believe 10 at the last grant cycle.
Correct, for the last 8 years.
Yep. And we do matching funds with Insera to provide food, and obviously that is a huge need. There are other needs. Animals and pets certainly deserve our attention. We have an obligation to them as well, and we have to take care of them. Students and education, of course, are vitally important, and the scholarship funds that we administer, we currently are processing 7
Yes.
scholarship applications, different scholarship funds that we are processing.
Well, I want to tell you both that I admire your organization, I admire the work that you do, and I admire you both as people. And I can tell our listeners out there that the Rockland Community Foundation has made a difference in Rockland County, and I can't think of too many more accolades that I can send someone's way than saying you have made a difference in our county.
Thank you.
So, Susan, I want to thank you for being here, and Bill, thank you for being here as well. I hope we shed some light on the Rockland Community Foundation. Please go to them at rocklandgives.org. Is that right?
That's correct.
And I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Giving Matters for this month. We'll be back again shortly. And for all of you, have a great day. Enjoy yourself.